Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie Marie and I am a contemporary romance author that writes about Black love in a small town called Hemingway. If you're new to me or to my channel, welcome. If you're not new or you know me elsewhere on the internet, welcome back. Today I wanted to read a chapter out of Every Part of You, which is the second book in the Hometown series, which is my first full series that's completely done. You can find it on Amazon. I'm exclusive to Amazon right now, so it's in KU, Kindle Unlimited, as well as in the paperback version on Amazon. So the reason why I wanted to read a chapter out of Every Part of You is because we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of Every Part of You's release. So I wanted to do something special and I figured we could read a chapter together. So let's get started. Before I read the chapter, I wanted to first read the blurb and then also read the content warning, because I feel like the content warning is very important, especially for the first chapter. So blurb first. He wants her to stay, she wants her space, but what happens when 1 + 1 = 3? Catalina, when we separated, all I felt was relief. I'd get my space, find myself, fight my own battles instead of his. This would be the worst time to get pregnant, right? Tell that to my uterus. Jeremiah, when Catalina asked for a separation, I left. I had to. I had no choice. I thought that was the end of our lives together, the end of us. So what do I do when Catalina gets pregnant and I get a second chance? Every Part of You is a second chance, marriage in crisis, surprise baby romance about the unexpected hope in the face of turmoil. It is the second book in the Hometown series and can be read as a standalone. Readers can expect the usual hijinks from the crew, including a parent trap type setup, late night cooking sessions, and a coming home surprise. Be prepared to laugh, cry, and swoon in equal measure. So that's the blurb. Content warning. Content warning is as follows. This story deals with heavy topics which include infertility and issues getting pregnant, strong language as it relates to sex and general swearing, separation and potential divorce, discussion about racism and sexism, though none displayed on the page, some aggression and arguing, and on the page, open door sex scenes. Please keep your mental health in mind when reading this story and seek consultation from a professional, licensed therapist should strong feelings arise about the content of this book. All right, so part 1, the beginning. Chapter 1, Catalina. I slammed the negative pregnancy test down on the bathroom counter. Fuck. I had been feeling woozy all day at work, so I'd gone to the convenience store on my lunch break and picked up a pregnancy test. While waiting in line, I'd tapped my foot, checked my watch, trying to stave off my own impatience. This felt like the moment. The moment I found out I was going to be a mom. I craved it so badly, I could almost taste my desire. For 4 years, I had hoped and prayed and researched and prayed some more, and nothing. But maybe this time, I would finally be pregnant. Not according to the pregnancy test. I closed my eyes and tried to count down from 100 in Spanish, trying to center myself in the tiny workplace single bathroom. There was just enough room for a sad little toilet and a cracked porcelain sink. The dull fluorescent light flickered like we were in a horror film, which did nothing for my mood. Sweat trickled down my back, my thoughts thick like the hot August New England air. I continued to count. Counting in another language, even when I wasn't fluent in, was the thing that calmed my heart rate in times like these. My heart seemed fine this time, though. It was my mind that was spinning. I really thought I was pregnant this time. I had all the first trimester symptoms: exhaustion, nausea, breast tenderness, food cravings. Though when I stopped to think about it, it was more likely that I was PMSing than pregnant. I thought that after 4 years of this shit, the hope, the negative pregnancy test, the letdown, and then the menstruation, I would be used to it. But nope, it still fucking hurt. The worst part about it was Jer. I didn't want to go home and face him. He was the love of my life and a sensitive soul. Though I felt his pain as if it were my own, I only connected him in that way. He, on the other hand, felt what everyone felt all the time. That, coupled with another negative pregnancy test, I worried it would all send him that much closer to the breaking point. As I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror, I pictured his expression in my mind, the barely contained rage and the unending sadness of a dream completely shattered by stupid fucking pea stick. Jared wanted to be a dad just as much as I wanted to be a mom, and he banked his hopes and future on that tiny possibility of sperm meeting egg. My chest hurt to think of what would be waiting for me when I got home. My shell of a husband. And yet, part of me resented him as much as I loved him. I too was shattered. I too wanted a baby. But I had to take care of Jared first. It had been like that since we were kids. It was how our relationship even started. This whole journey in trying to get pregnant was a lesson in self-sacrifice. I was in the best shape of my life, but not by choice. I did everything I could to make my womb hospitable, to prepare my body for motherhood. I took prenatal vitamins, exercised the recommended amount, cut out all the tasty but unhealthy food from my diet, and I didn't drink, didn't party, got the right amount of sleep. And for what? I was still childless. I didn't know if I could do another month of this. I jumped as someone knocked on the door. "Someone's in here," I called. I was surprised that I could even get the words out around the lump blocking my airway. But I couldn't hole up in the bathroom forever. I had to face Jeremiah sometime. Grimacing, I picked up the pregnancy test and threw it in the garbage. I would finish out my workday, as usual, and I'd deliver the bad news, as usual. What other choice did I have? I wish I could just leave, just go somewhere that no one knows me, or be on my own completely. Hell, maybe I could. Jeremiah. Catalina's planning her exit strategy. I said this to myself aloud at work one day. It was the middle of the afternoon. I didn't usually go in on my day off, but the atmosphere at home was oppressive, even when I was home alone. My breath practically clawed its way up my airway, nearly fought to enter and exit my body. It was a prisoner with no hope of release. So I went to work for respite, and still I thought of her. The thought resurfaced as I was writing out the ingredients for the ossobuco dish. Catalina wants a divorce. The flavor of the thought was dull, muted, sad, resigned. It wasn't the usual anxiety I felt when thinking about my wife. It didn't have the frenetic, barely contained spiraling that floated off her in waves. I knew she wanted to be free. I knew that she felt trapped by our relationship, by the fact that we couldn't have children. What I hadn't realized was that ultimately, she'd want to leave me. The more I thought about it though, all the signs were there. She barely spoke to me most days, hardly smiled. We would have sex in silence, and a couple of weeks later, she'd take a pregnancy test and tell me the results in a little flat voice. Or she would tell me she got her period. And as the thought became stronger, she wants a divorce, I sat back in my chair. I counted to 10, trying to tamp down the sob in my throat, and the resulting burn and closure left me breathless. I laid my palms flat on my thighs and just tried to breathe. In, out. Just like the marriage counselor said. "Jeremiah," she had said gently, "you need to breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Just focus on breathing." I looked around the kitchen trying to focus on something else, anything else other than the realization that Catalina would leave me soon. Probably that night if she could help it. My throat came a little closer to closing entirely, and I let that thought go. My eyes caught on the shiny industrial-sized mixing bowl across the counter from me. I could see my reflection in the metal, staring back at me. On the outside, I looked normal. No one who looked at me could see that anything was wrong. Except Catalina. Catalina would know. She always did, even though I was the sensitive one. I was diagnosed as a highly sensitive person by our therapist. She explained that it wasn't a disorder, it was simply a personality trait. It was the difference in how my nervous system was wired. People with this trait, she said, went on to live normal, happy lives, supposedly. But nothing this visceral, this damaging, could be a personality trait. Why else would I have trouble blocking out others' emotions, sights and smells, bright lights, violence, if something wasn't wrong with me? No true man would be such an exposed nerve. Not like this. No, it was a disorder, and it was going to be one of the reasons Catalina left me. I could see it in her face every time I'd had to turn down the lights or ask her to change her perfume. When she turned away, I knew it was because she didn't want me to ask her yet again about her day because I could feel waves of sadness pouring from her. I knew she thought of me as an emotionally incapable person because I couldn't move on from the realization that we might never have kids, even though it had been 4 years of trying and failing. On my inhale, I saw the reflection in the mixing bowl. On my exhale, I swiped it from the counter. It clattered to the floor with a loud crash, making me wince. I watched it as it rolled around on the floor, a direct reflection of the chaos in my body. When it stopped, I stared for a few minutes longer. It would need to be cleaned now that it had touched the dirty floor. But what did it matter? What else in the world mattered when my wife was getting ready to leave me? I got home before she did. She's probably sitting in her car, waiting until the very last minute to come home, I thought to myself. My body felt like it was filled with lead, just imagining the dread she felt at coming home. I sighed as I entered the house, throwing the keys on the island in the middle of the kitchen and turning on the lights. Looking around, I had a dull sense of being home, but with none of the pleasure it used to bring. I closed my eyes against the memory of carrying Catalina over the threshold of the room and almost toppling us both as my foot caught on the lip of the doorway. We had laughed until we'd cried, the both of us. "Welcome home, my love," I had said with a smirk. I greeted her that way every day since then. So much had happened since we first moved in. We had both started and left jobs, carved space in our careers, made new friends. Catalina had planned our childhood friend Alicia's bachelorette party at our dining room table. We learned of the due date of Alicia and Andrew's child while sitting in our kitchen. We had had their baby shower in our living room. While we were lying in bed, we got the news that our goddaughter was on the way. And of course, we had cried in this house, fought in this house, had sex on almost every horizontal surface, some of the walls too. We had experienced great joy and unbelievable heartache. I leaned my head against our bedroom door, remembering Catalina's body-racking sobs as yet another pregnancy test came back negative. I couldn't stay in this house. If Catalina was going to leave me, I wasn't going to be the one to keep it. I started packing my bags just as Catalina turned her key in the lock. I paused, my heart speeding up, loathing that we would have to say the words aloud that we already knew. This was the end. I was leaving. Catalina didn't want to be with me anymore. Almost as if she knew that I knew, she slowly turned the bedroom doorknob. The wood creaked as she opened the door and gaped at my open suitcase. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Catalina." I avoided her eyes as I shoved a pile of socks and underwear in the front pocket. "Hey, what's going on, Jer?" I grimaced. "You're leaving me, that's what's going on." She sucked in a breath, then sighed. The sound was loud in the stark silence of our room. "Yeah, then I have to go." I zipped up the front pocket and opened up the suitcase. "I can't stay here, and you have nowhere to go. I don't want this house, then sell it. Jeremiah, can you look at me for a minute?" Painfully, I pulled my eyes up to meet hers. Her mouth was pinched, her lips making a wrinkly O. Her little point of a chin wobbled, and her hands, which were by her sides, were almost still but for the barely noticeable twitching of her fingers. She did this whenever she fought against her impulse to comfort me when she knew I didn't want to be touched. I almost reached for her too, almost soothed my hands down her back like I always did on the precipice of her tears. But I couldn't do that anymore. I felt my own tears and took a breath to bury them. "Is this how we're going to leave things?" she asked. "What other way is there, Catalina?" I felt a small nugget of rage lodge itself in my throat. The child in me sought revenge, to hurt her the way she hurt me. "We gonna sit by the fireplace and rehash all the good times, maybe laugh a little so you don't have to feel so bad about leaving me? What is it that you want from me? Can we at least sit down and talk about it?" She sighed again, leaning against the doorframe, her arms crossed as if to protect herself. "Give me a chance to explain." "I don't need an explanation." I felt my mouth set in a mulish line. "You're leaving me. You want a divorce, separation, whatever. That's all I need to know." "What would you rather have me do?" she challenged. She stepped into our bedroom, got as close to my face as she could at her 5 feet 4 inches to my 6'2". "Do you really want to stay in a marriage where all we do is mourn? We sit within the 4 walls of this house in silence, Jer. I can't do that anymore. It sucks that we can't have kids, but we have to move forward. We have to find some joy in life, somehow, some way. Sitting and talking about it ad nauseum is not it. And the pregnancy test I took today proves that. Besides," She said this on another sigh, as if all of her frustration had suddenly drained from her. Us? It's just not working right now. The words made my skin prickle as if being poked with 1,000 different needles. Every time we get another pregnancy test, you lose a little bit more of you, and I lose a little bit more of me. I don't even know who I am anymore, Jer. I put my heart and soul into getting pregnant these last 4 years, and nothing has come of it except me losing all the things I love about life. We're fucking 27 years old, Jer. This is the time to truly live. Do you want to know what life is like out there? Experience something new? We can do that together, I argued. You want to take a trip? Let's do it. Let's call in sick right now and buy a ticket to wherever you want to go. Why do we have to be apart to do that? Because I'm suffocating, Jer. The words hung in the air between us, blooming into something bigger than us. I can't be me when I'm with you. I'm too busy taking care of you all the time that I don't even know who I am anymore. I changed my whole life around so that we could have a baby. Stop doing the things that I loved, the things you loved me for, so I can make my womb friendlier. But nothing worked. And then there's our relationship. She swallowed, fiddling with her wedding rings before continuing. Our relationship has defined me in such a way that these few years that I don't have an identity without it, we're literally melding together. We don't have any boundaries. She laughed humorously, a startling, ha, that was different than her usual giggle. Sometimes I feel like I've even gained your heightened senses. We've been together for so long, we're becoming one person, and we don't know anything else. I don't know anything else. She shifted from one foot to the other, avoiding my eyes. My stomach dropped knowingly. She only did that when she was about to say something harsh. I didn't have to wait long. And you're too needy, she said finally. Her eyes found mine again, and there was a hardness I didn't recognize. You're too dependent on me too. I need my space, and you can't give it to me. I can't keep saving you, Jer. So that's really it then. The words on my tongue felt like dirty pennies as they passed through my lips. It's not the morning, but the fact that you just want to be away from me. I'm the problem. She was silent as she looked down at her feet, hands on her hips. Finally, quietly, she said, yeah, that's really it. I nodded as I shut and zipped my suitcase with far more vigor than it needed. Cool, good to know. Have a nice life, Kat. Wait, Jeremiah, she said as I put my suitcase on the floor and prepared to roll it out the door. No, that's not what I meant. It is what you meant, Catalina. I turned to her, feeling my fists clench at my side. After everything we've been through, please don't insult me by lying to my face. I still love you, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I just need a break. I just need to find myself again. Doesn't that count for anything? As I watched her, I felt the pull I always had toward her. The two of us were part of a tapestry, held together by the strongest of threads, love. But that same thread was frayed at the bottom. It was being yanked from the tapestry itself. It was simultaneously the thread that held us together and the one that could tear us apart. I felt a phantom tug, watching our life together, watching my wife unravel before my very eyes. But I buried that feeling as far down as it would go, and it made my face intentionally blank, hardened against her tears. It may count for some people, I said, turning away from her, but it doesn't to me. Not anymore. So that was the first chapter of Every Part of You. It's a very emotional chapter, and it was intentionally so. These two go through a lot in this book. It's just rereading it again for the first time in a couple of years is just bringing me back. But you know, that's what they're going through. So if you enjoyed this chapter, feel free to join me on Patreon because surprise, on my Patreon, I will be reading the whole book for the month of July. It's going to be an endeavor, but I'm excited. It's going to be much of the same kind of thing. So I apologize for all of my mess ups. I usually read in my head, and so when I have to read aloud, I'm just like, this is weird, and I stumble over my words a lot. I also have a cold. Whatever, it is what it is. But in any case, if you enjoyed this, feel free to stick around. Join my Patreon. There are multiple levels of it. You can join for $1, you can join for $3, $5, however many. So take a look at that. I will include the link in my description, and I will see you next time. Cheers. Bye.